How was lunch? Very nice weather outside. Yeah, awesome. Okay, well, let's get started. Our next speaker is a seasoned professional with 10 plus years of experience in the field of technology. Currently, he works at Gladly as a senior engineer, helping to build a radically personal customer service platform. Here to share his take on securing AI using Teleport, please welcome Sako M to the stage.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for warm introduction. My name is Sako. I work for the company called Gladly. It's as mentioned, it's a customer experience platform, radically personalized. And today I'm going to talk about a bit buzz and a bit what we see across the board that pretty much touching all the industry, all the software companies, large language models, and we will see how we can enable Teleport using some of the challenges or security challenges these companies facing. It's going to be presentation, and I will try to show something, but we may not also get time. Heads up. Okay. So let's start. What we see across the enterprises, like this, especially with the introduction of the ChatGPT, we see a lot of companies started pivoting in their roadmap and including and integrating with LLMs, either hosted version or some of those running like ChatGPT or from the Google. And okay, where we see the Teleport. And now we're going to talk about how the Teleport going to fit into some of these new tools getting introduced pretty much every day, and as an open source or a managed service. But they are not really enterprise-grade production ready. And we can see from this slide, and I would like to ask maybe a question: are you today using LLMs in some way in the production? Maybe raise your hands. Okay, quite across the board. And this is pretty much of us has top 10 for the LLM applications. They have also for machine learning for MLs. And what we see here, two things probably. One is complexity added to your infrastructure. And second, we see so many risks associated with that complexity getting added to our infrastructure. And let's touch a bit the background. There are lots of new terms coming as a buzz or not buzz, but there is a bit missing also education piece. Let's just take a step back. Firstly, funny thing, kind of simplified version of the LLMs were introduced back in 60s. It was called ELIZA. And in 60 years, we see drastic change where we are today. And there, for the LLMs, it's pretty much the probabilistically trying to predict what's the next word when you are asking a question. There are quite a bit of the metrics for the LLMs, but we see in the top like safety, security, privacy, performance, and so forth. And another thing, obviously, is the cost, how we can bring the cost down, because we know Google search is way much cheaper than running these LLMs for the searching. So you don't have to use all these enterprise or let's say closed source LLMs. There are also some open source. As example, the one Meta introduced accidentally or not accidentally called Llama. And pretty much they trained the Llama on large corpus of the data. You can see mostly the public data, and then they benchmarked it across the board and for the accuracy of this large language model performance. And in some points they mentioned also it's also outperforming GPT 3.5 and so forth. So to see what are the outs there, there is a website called Hugging Face. You can go check it out. It's pretty much, you can it's like GitHub for models. You can host your models, you can host your data, and there are spaces where you can go kind of a bit play with all these large language models. And what we see today, and the models are categorized, pre-trained models, fine-tuned models, and we will talk a bit more also like how we can do more like not fine-tuning, but we can also inject during the prompt some of these things that we can use our closed private data and integrate with this LLM. So we're going to touch a bit on them. But what they use pretty much is called AI language model evaluation, and they have so far 4 of the benchmarks. And retrieval augmented generation. This is new term. They call it for the new stack. I will be just curious to ask, how many of you heard or know what it is? OK. Perfect. So just in briefly what was happening with this large language models introduction, enterprises were challenging because they wanted to get more specific answer where they could benefit of using their own data, but they didn't wanted to go fine-tune or pre-train these large language models in order to get more accurate responses. That's where this term came, retrieval augmented generation. And pretty much what it does, you take your data, then the next term you would like to know is the vector embeddings. And pretty much you also heard what a vector database is, which is kind of a new term. So what it will do, like instead of doing the keyword searching, you can use a semantic searching where it will look at the vectors, and based on the vector similarity, it will find and give you more accurate responses. So once you take this kind of large data, you tokenize it. You divide it to the chunks of data, and then you do tokenization of these data, and then you are storing in the vector databases. Some of these, we'll also touch what are the options to store vector databases. On some of these existing databases also introduce this feature, or there are also new types of vector databases you can use. And with this together, you can get more mature or more relevant responses to your queries. And vector databases, there are community-maintained Excel edition, but pretty much this is classified into 3 places. There are some are open source. Some of them are more like libraries. It's not production ready. You cannot go and use them. Or some of them, like OLTP extension, like pgvector, or the one from the OpenSearch one, you can use this database. It's not still clear that if having specific for this purpose vector database is good, or having all this scalar and vector data storing in the single place would be solution in the long run. So this is still not clear, but the thing is clear, the security side of this vector database is still also in the development phase. Now let's talk about the security side of these LLMs. Oops. Sorry, it doesn't show up here, so I will need to describe. So what in the slide supposed to be is the Meta, Google, Microsoft, if you look across, and they have a responsible AI programs. And what we see that there are things that are changing from one to another, but the things are the same: is security, privacy, together is fairness, and safety are the main pillars. So it means this is one of the top priorities for these companies behind LLMs and across industry. And this is derived from the OWASP top 10 for the LLMs. So I went through that and tried to pick the pieces would be relevant for this talk. And what we can see here, and they're talking about the access control recommendation, how to limit some of these product not to expose. It's more outside of the your infrastructure and regularly monitor, audit, logging, and more talking about automation around that and more elevated access to be controlled and audited. So now, if we map this OWASP top 10 recommendation to the what we can use benefit by using the teleport would be around access control, user friendliness, data protection, and audit. And sorry. Oops. So I will also need to a bit briefly touch on these things. For the access control, we know we can use teleport for the access to your Kubernetes cluster, applications, the SSH node, either it's a Kubernetes node or the server you are running. And user friendliness, we can give some examples like more automation piece, usability, because using teleport, you have a single pane of glass that you can, it will make things easier. And data protection, I'm sure you have seen and heard along the day that having the secretless design is amazing in that point, that you don't have database credentials sitting around in the developer laptops and so forth. That's where it would get huge help. And my favorite one is the audit one, because we had really a few instances that it made so much easier just to go find who did what when. And that was really relief, especially if you are having any incidents and you have to act fast. This is really priceless feature from teleport. So this is 9 box of controls, and pretty much what it says, and you hear a lot, I'm sure, like shifting to the left, what it says, we need to focus more on automation, and before they become an incident, that's where I feel like teleport is fitting well. If you are not using today, that will elevate so many things that you don't have to onboard, offboard people, you don't have to have elevated privilege, you can use access workflow, and especially in the production, accessing to your databases or applications or even cluster and so forth. That's where things will be low riskier and you can benefit from this. So don't let it go to the right side, especially up. Okay, I think, yeah, a bit for this slide, sorry, I was still working and it's sent the last minute, so some of the stuff I will need to just describe it with the words. So pretty much there is an open source project that Llamas you can run on your hosted version. There is private GPT and so forth as example. But the thing was missing for most of them, they don't even have any authentication interface. Oh, you just go around in your Kubernetes cluster, boom, UI will show up and that's it. Like there is no really security things coming with them. So I would not recommend just go straight around. I will definitely say at least put behind the teleport application feature. So this is from A16Z for the enterprises. If you think about it, if tomorrow you take this one and go to your security team, hey, we need add all this tooling in our infrastructure, and I will be curious to see their reaction. Probably they will be at least surprised that you have to, in a short amount of time, and especially it's in the roadmap and one of the priority for most of the products and companies, you will need to integrate. So that's where we can take a step back and say, okay, what will make it different than what we do today? Which is, if you look from the SNCF, there are 4 more steps in traditional software development or cloud native way of developing. You are developing, distributing, packaging, as it can be artifact, images, or Helm charts, and so forth, and then you are deploying in your cluster or different environments, and then you're looking at this in your runtime. So if you look at this stack, using the teleport will help you in the access places across the board, across the layers. Either it's an access control piece or auditing and authentication and so forth. And there is a thing called 4I principle, where it means at least whenever whatever critical operation you do in your environment, you should get at least one person review it, and where, again, teleport approval workflow can help, and you will not end up pretty much hearing that, oh, we forget to revoke X access, or I don't know, in the production, if somebody needs access to do X, Y, Z, and so forth. Like, we hear a lot, otherwise your team will end up getting so much toil and ending doing all these kind of day-to-day activities, where obviously you can also avoid. But using teleport approval workflows and making more, starting with a least privileged access and then elevating whenever they need and for, let's say, for how long they need, and doing this would help. So I really enjoyed using the Teleport Cloud. So we had a hosted version, but also using Teleport Cloud. And especially, I see a lot of friends, and I did also a good job just by presenting before to a couple of friends, just saying, okay, there is a team plan, and which is $15 is no-brainer. But if you're building AI apps, especially in early stage for your company, you should definitely consider using it, because this is really going to help you just start from the scratch, from the beginning, more secure, and you can also pass audit and compliance requirements and so forth. So, sorry about that. Again, so I will need to also talk a bit about that. So for the Kubernetes access, so you can add all your clusters in the Kubernetes. And the huge win we have seen in that piece, especially granting for the different load environments and production, all these environments, it really makes time saver in the production. And you don't have to go do, I don't know, port forwarding and so forth for your apps. So node access, again, you can have instances running in your cloud environment, or you can also SSH to your Kubernetes nodes running in your clusters. So that's it. And access to the databases, and there are so many managed databases you use, and some of them hosted databases, where this would help. Either it's open source, DynamoDB, or Postgres, and having the auditability around that would be helpful. So. And just a couple of examples, like there are tools like Ray coming, which is more complex to run in your infrastructure, which is more, you start with the data, training, tuning, and serving, and this is supposed to productionize the way you develop and run and deploy your models. That's where it would help. But if you take it open source version, there is no basic authentication or back behind, where you would either need to go use managed service, Nscale, or you will need to use something like Teleport in this case. And again, as example for the auditability purpose, and access request, where you can use approval workflows. And that is it. How we are doing with the timing? Okay, we have 10 minutes. I would like to see if anyone has questions or any experiences deploying LLMs on the production.
And just a reminder, if you do have a question, please raise your hand so that we can capture it on the microphone. Any questions for Sako?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you for the session. I wanted to understand, how do you see like AI infrastructure being different than regular infrastructure right now, and where do you see it headed?
That's a good question. So observation is things are moving very fast, and so many tools keep coming. For this, you need this vector database. But if you really actually need them, and because every piece of the tool you will introduce to your infrastructure, it comes at a cost. Either it's a maintenance cost or security cost and so forth. And just if you're getting started, just looking at this stack, even from the A16Z, like, do you really need all these tools around that? So I feel like this is also maybe the gap in education side of it. Like, we need fast and we are in the rush. Oh my God, we need this and we need a line chain. We need Llama index. We need all this kind of. I feel over time more we are getting educated, more we get actually that hands-on experience. Some of these tools will go away. And that's where we will see actually running them in production. Because even including the LLMs, we will see also probably some new tools getting added, especially with the prompt engineering. It's still not clear how secure they are. And there are so many ways that it can go right and left. Just prompt engineering, the new term, will survive, and we will have more automation around that. And I think accuracy and hallucination probably with LLMs are the biggest challenge. And then the data piece is around it as well is a key challenge. Let's say if you train the data, even if you put in vector database, but then the data lifecycle data, it's going to be stale, and how you're going to manage and deal with that. And one thing, OpenAI made it clear that they are not training their models with the customer data, and then every 30 days they will just churn your data. And basically the compliance around LLMs, I think they will also be mature, because let's say this is for OpenAI, but how about others? So many LLMs and open source or closed source. And over time, the performance piece will need to be improved, because let's say it's great if you use, I don't know, 5, 10 documents, but if you do batch document processing and using LLMs and injecting them in the prompt, so how the performance is going to be impacted. And I expect the cost will go down, performance will go up, and security will go up. And that will be my bets.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Sako? I know, get a good workout here.
Sako, thank you so much for the presentation, for sharing kind of all these insights with us. One big theme that I noticed this morning was around people, and people, and one of the big things around security is change management and adopting new things. Do you have any insights or any best practices that you've implemented to gently force your team to adopt some of these things? Or how have you what have you done to effectively get folks to change from, even if what they had was not great, it's a known thing, it's something that they're already comfortable with. How have you been able to kind of instill some change within your team?
So the change, so can I have a follow-up question? So you mean with AI is coming and all this education side of it, or in general, any change?
More adoption of any change within your, especially around how people are going to improve their security posture. Like, how have you helped your team adopt some of those things?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. These kind of events are really helpful, just coming and actively participating in what people are doing and building an industry and sharing with the team. So one of the things we do, like, as a knowledge sharing, and before the talk, I went with the team and shared, because it's also, there are so many things that are new in security, things keep coming, and being on top of the game helps, like, meaning even if some of the things you don't need now, but just going, prototyping, experimenting, and sharing with the team, and just getting ready when the time comes to make a decision would be helpful. Because if you're in the rush, if you're trying to design and so many tools trying to introduce to your infrastructure, you will probably miss some of the things. And the only better way to avoid them, just start doing some action in advance. And having that being said, like more collaboration piece is also important. Proactively, just being curious and going and asking other people how they do before you do. But one of the things, and just preparing for the talk, I noticed that even not the security, even like production readiness of the LLMs are still not there yet. There are here and there are few pieces of information, and there are so many terms you need to understand, and then to make a decision, where unfortunately some of the products may not wait that long for the team to get there. So the best way would be also just start learning in the space. So thank you.
Very good. All right, Sako, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Please
Thank
give
you.
us a round of applause.
Thank you.